Hi there, this is Craig Beck from StopDrinkingExpert.com, and today's video is about the adult children of alcoholics. And the reason I'm doing this video is because, quite rightly, when people develop a problem with alcohol, they feel a little bit cheated by life. You know, they look around at their friends and their families and their colleagues who are all apparently using alcohol perfectly fine, no problems, and they think, why me? Why has this happened to me? Why can't I be like the other guys who seem to be able to just have one glass of wine and put the bottle away? Why do I have to drink the whole bottle? Why do I have to drink every day? And the first thing I would say about that is you've got to be careful, because what you're seeing is not reality. I would say that 80% of the people who come to my website with a drinking problem are entirely functioning people. They're holding down jobs, they're great parents, they're not chalking up DUIs all over the place, they're not letting people down. It just happens that they're turning to alcohol to deal with life every day, and they can't stop. But you wouldn't know it from seeing them, all right? And, I was a functioning alcoholic. I was a very successful businessman. I was the director of 2 companies. I was the patron of a very large children's charity. I was highly respected and regarded in my industry. Nobody knew I had a drink problem. Now, sure, they would describe me as a guy who could handle his drink. Oi, Craig can handle his drink. As though it was some sort of sign of toughness, What they didn't know is that I was drinking every night, and I was drinking even more at the weekend. And any bit of bad news I got, I turned to a bottle of whiskey. Nobody knew that apart from my close family. So what you see and what you compare yourself against is not reality, because the vast majority of people you see drinking will be struggling with it in some way, because it's a very addictive substance. Now, I think the type of person you're talking about when you ask, why can't I be like that person, is like my partner, Daniela. Daniela, I think in the last 18 months, I've seen her drink alcohol 3 times. And it's always been 1 bottle of beer. Maybe we go out to an Indian restaurant or something like that, and she fancies a bottle of beer, and she has 1. And that's it. And she'll never think about drinking again for months. And then all of a sudden she'll go, you know what? I fancy a beer, or I fancy a glass of wine. And then she won't think about it again for months. It's incredible. I'm amazed looking at them, like, how are you doing that? It's crazy. So these are the people that we look at and go, it's not fair. How come I'm like this and they're like that? Well, look, there is almost certainly some genetics at play here. But what I'm making this video for is to say that if you grew up in an alcoholic household, you have a 50% increased chance of also developing problems with alcohol. We'll talk about why in just a second. I just want to give you a little disclaimer on that first, though, because I don't want you to get hung up on why you have a problem. Because if we ever get to the point in this process where we're pointing the finger of blame at someone, this is not my fault, it's my dad's fault because he was an alcoholic, or, this is not my fault, both my parents drank in front of me. As soon as we start pointing the finger of blame at someone or something, then we give ourselves a reason to fail. We carry on drinking, we say, well, there's nothing I can do about it because, it's genetic. It's out of my control. And that's dangerous, because actually it is in our control. It is our responsibility now. And how we got here is largely irrelevant. Spending too much time on this subject is pointless. Doesn't serve you, worthless. So I'm not going to make many videos about this, maybe 1 or 2, and this will be one of them. So is it genetics? Well, you'll never really know unless you go crazy into this and get blood tests and all sorts of stuff. But why would you want to do that? It may be genetics. It may, and I think more likely, be social conditioning, right? Because when you're young, information goes in here without very much filtering. When we get older and a bit more cynical, then we start to judge information a bit better, When someone says something to us, we're constantly evaluating that information and saying, well, does that sound right? Does that sound realistic? When you're a child, you don't have any points of reference to filter this information. And we come into this world as completely helpless beings. We're a very weak species in that regard, because if it weren't for our parents, if it wasn't for our mother feeding us and cleaning us, we'd die. We can't stand up, we can't walk, we can't feed ourselves, we'll just lay there on our back and we die without someone to look after us. And so we very quickly work out that these two giants that hang around us are the people that are going to keep us alive. They're gods to us now. And up until about the age of 7, anything that these two gods say, we take as fact. Anything they do that we witness, fact. It's not our opinion of it. It's not our judgment. It's fact. And this is why we get told the Father Christmas story, and we get told the Tooth Fairy story, and we go, yeah, okay, yeah, on board with that. That makes sense. Yeah, no problem with that at all. Because the giants told us, and the giants are infallible. So we're introduced to alcohol from the moment we're born. Probably our first memory is of the giants surrounding us with glasses of magic liquid celebrating our birth. And then over the next few years, we're going to see this magic liquid poured that we're not allowed, it's only for the special people, at birthdays, Thanksgiving, Christmas. We're going to see it used to cope with life. When dad loses his job, the whiskey will come out. When mum feels a bit upset, out comes a bottle of wine. There's even a brand of wine called Mummy's Little Helper. I mean, how disgusting is that? So we're going to witness over and over again the use of alcohol as a benefit in life, or so it appears. Because why would these perfect beings do anything that's harmful, right? And so we have all this social conditioning. And if you live in a house where an alcoholic lives, then you are going to be repeatedly exposed to this process all the way through your childhood and adolescence. And what you'll find is that you will be introduced to alcohol in a very much more relaxed way, as though it's nothing. And you'll be given a treat of alcohol more often. Why? Well, because the alcoholic in your household knows that what they're doing is intrinsically wrong. They know they're an addict, but they don't want to admit it. So they certainly don't want to sit on their own and become drunk in front of you too often. So they will introduce you into the process so that you can't be too judgmental about them because you're also doing it. And I will tell you honestly, when I was growing up, my grandparents had some very strange views of alcohol. My granddad would let me drink cider, which was probably 8-9% proof. Like a strong beer is these days. He would let me drink as much cider as I wanted because he was under the incorrect assumption that it was just apple juice. Now, he wasn't a stupid man, so I don't know if he was just being deliberately, fighting against the system, or whether he was, I'm not sure what he was doing, but basically, I remember being a child and being so drunk that I would have to crawl up the stairs to bed. So alcohol was in my life from a very, very early age. And there's no doubt that when I got into my 20s and I started having bad days at work and I found myself buying a bottle of booze to deal with it, there's no doubt some of that social conditioning had rubbed off. So I'm not going to talk much more about this because, like I've said, it's really, really important that you don't start pointing fingers of blame and you don't start saying, well, it's not my fault. I knew it wasn't my fault. It's his fault or her fault or my genetics or what. It doesn't matter. None of that stuff means anything and it won't do you the single bit of good. What you have to do at this point to move forward is you have to forgive everyone in your life who introduced you to alcohol. You have to be cool with them. You have to let it go. I don't mean you have to go up to them and say, I forgive you for what you did. There's no need to cause a big scene about it. You just have to make peace with it in your head. You have to be cool with it. And next, you need to take 100% responsibility for your problem. The fact that you drink alcohol to excess now is your problem. Nobody else is going to fix it for you. Nobody is going to come in externally and say, take this tablet and it'll all go away. Even if you get an apology from someone who introduced you to alcohol, it's not going to help you 1%. This is your problem. It's not your fault. I am not talking about blame. I am talking about responsibility. And when you accept 100% responsibility, you know that it is your job to take the next step on this path and get out of the loop. So I'm going to leave the video there because it's quite a heavy topic, but if you have any specific questions, get in touch with me via the website www.stopdrinkingexpert.com.